Welcome to the News Hour. One of the nation's most prominent conservative activists is dead after being shot during a political rally at a Utah college campus this afternoon.
His wife and children were in attendance, dude. Imagine, imagine being a 12-year-old, watching your dad fucking die.
Breaking news, Charlie Kirk was in the neck. As of right now, I think his condition is unknown. There are a lot of people that are like, no matter what side of politics you're on, you should never celebrate something bad happening to someone. I, on the other hand, do cheer when bad things happen to bad people. So on behalf of everybody else, I don't know if he's gonna make a recovery or not. I
just watched a close-up video of Charlie Kirk getting pewed in the neck. So you know what time it is.
Got pewed in the throat, so that in his final moments he couldn't in fact speak.
Okay, so before we get into this video is not going to be about the event itself. It's not going to be about Charlie Kirk himself. This is going to address some of the reactions that I've seen on social media and me trying to make sense of that through the lens of a Cape Malay South African Muslim, specifically to address this eye for an eye attitude, or this I'm going to treat you the way you treat me attitude. My concerns about that. And then I'm going to propose a solution to that, again through my lens. And maybe this will be helpful to you, maybe it won't. But here we go. So I made a response video to Charlie Kirk's death. And then I got this comment that helped me to kind of rethink my stance and my perspective on this issue. And that maybe I didn't clarify what it was that I was really concerned about, or what it is that I'm really concerned about. Now let me be very clear on my opinion. What he did or didn't deserve is not of my concern. He left this world, he left this dunya exactly the way the Creator intended. And he's gone now. And is there an argument for why his life was taken or ended the way that it did? Yeah, there is. But what concerned me the most was scrolling through social media and seeing people laugh, dance, and make a joke out of his death.
After hearing news like this, some form of memoriam is expected. So, in honor of his noble sacrifice, I am going to be getting absolutely blitzed tonight.
Because it reminded me of the same attitude and of the same behavior on social media that we have watched certain groups of people display in response to the lives being taken of people that we care about. Whether that is on the Cape Flats, whether that is in townships, whether it's in Palestine, Congo, Sudan, or anywhere else for that matter. But while our feelings and our anger and our frustration and our anxiety is fully justified, we still have the opportunity to choose differently. And my concern is that as long as we don't make that choice to be different, to choose differently, we are only perpetuating, solidifying, and cementing the divides between us as groups of people. When I said that I don't wish what happened to him on any person, and when I said that he was a husband and a father to children, what I was thinking about is that those kids one day have to grow up. And when they do, there's going to be a time when they're going to ask about what happened to their father. And they're going to watch those videos. And they're going to see the way that some people celebrated the death of their father. What kind of people is that going to mold them into becoming? Because there will be some of us that will say, yeah, well, when those kids see those videos and they learn about what happened to their father, they must choose to be better. They must look at what their father did and look at the decisions that he made, and they must choose to be better. But it's always easy to pass the buck and to expect somebody else to make the better moral and ethical decision. But we forget every single time that we have the opportunity to do the same, and we choose not to. Every single time that we had the opportunity not to stoop to that level and not to say, yeah, but they do this and they say this and they behave that way. Not seeing how we are perpetuating the same attitudes and behaviors that we hate ourselves.
I think the defining chord that runs through South African identity is the sense of exclusion. If you're poor and black, you feel excluded. If you're white and your ancestors were colonialists, you feel excluded. If you're multiracial, if you're colored, and your ancestors were slaves and colonialists, you feel excluded. Everybody in this country feels like they're being pushed out of the box of South Africanness. Our country was built on 350 years of systemic violence, misogyny, and the exclusion of people. When we start to deal with the emotional, psychological, and spiritual baggage of that, then we'll start to form a country.
So I want to end off with maybe sharing an example of exactly the kind of character I believe it takes for us to really move forward. And perhaps this kind of character is not expected from everybody. The average Joe is probably not meant to even have that kind of character. But it is the kind of character that we need to choose in our leaders, that we need to see in our leaders. In the early days of Islam, there's a story about the day that the Muslims could finally go back to their home, finally go back to Mecca. Now, in the same way that in South Africa, for example, Islam grew out of Cape Town, the Cape Colony. The first mosque that was ever established was established in Cape Town. In the very same way, Makkah was the birthplace of Islam. But the early Muslims, together with the Prophet of Islam himself, were persecuted, abused, tortured, and killed by their own people, their neighbors, their family members, their community, who turned on them because they chose to believe in one God. So after having to migrate in order to survive, and then still going through wars, sanctions, but still growing with each challenge, a day finally came when the tables had turned and now the power was in the hands of the Muslims. So this day comes when now they can migrate and go back home and take control of Mecca. But as they are on their way, the Prophet starts to hear these whispers among some of his companions and some of the people saying that this is the day that we are going to get revenge. Everything that they did to us, today is the day when we're going to get them back. Nou gaan ons vir hulle kry. But his response to them, despite himself, peace be upon him, being a victim of that persecution, being a victim of that abuse, losing his family members and his loved ones along the way, his response to them on that day when they were the ones in power and control, when they could act out their revenge against their enemies, he said to them, today is not a day of bloodshed. Today is a day of mercy. That event and that decision is just one example of why he was chosen as the most influential man in the history of mankind.
Michael Hart, the American author of the wide-selling book, The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history, chose Prophet Muhammad to be at the top of the list. He said,
"My choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers and may be questioned by others. But he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and secular levels. It is this unparalleled combination of secular and religious influence which I feel entitles Muhammad to be considered the most influential single figure in human history.
But again, we are not saints, we are not prophets. But if we don't work towards that level of character, the feuds that we have amongst each other as racial groups, as ethnic groups, as religious groups, is never going to end. So anyway, let me not ramble on any further. If you found this video valuable, if you disagree with anything that I said, please let me know in the comment section. On that note, don't forget to like, to subscribe, to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.